back, everybody. It's great to have you here for our forum this evening here at Dunham's. We thank them for allowing us to use the room. And the first part tonight was Superintendent Peter Olsen-Skog talking about the tax levy question. And that will be an independent program that will run on Town Square TV. But now we're going to move on to hearing from the candidates for the school board. Yeah, that deserves an applause, sure.
Good evening, everybody. I'd like to start off by thanking the Optimist Club. It's always energizing when you see civic organizations that are engaged. These are people, sometimes they're invisible, but that volunteerism can be infectious, and it's obviously a very important part of our community. I am running for school board for the second time. A lot of the reasons are similar to 2 years ago, in that I was concerned that a lot of national, political, or very divisive issues were being pushed out and propagated into the school district. More importantly, I felt that people were being misserved by some of the things that were being presented. People would approach me and say they can't believe this is happening in the schools, and I have 2 kids in the district, and I'd be like, well, that's because they're not happening in the schools. And I'm not being dismissive of people's concerns. There's a lot out there to be concerned about, but 197 is a really, really good district. And we saw earlier in the presentation from the superintendent, it is well run, and one of the reasons I'm running is to help it keep being well run. It was interesting, this morning I just read in the newspaper of my hometown, I grew up in northern Minnesota, they are facing some severe budget cuts. And just reading the article, I mean, it was right there in black and white. Option A, option B, option C, and I read all of them. I'm like, I wouldn't wish those 3 choices on any district. One of the reasons I'm running, I hope I can be a voice and be an asset and a resource based on my background to make sure sound long-term fiscal planning, including guaranteeing we have revenue streams that are going to allow us to take care of our students in what is always is a dynamic, changing environment, and sometimes it requires more resource. Specific to some of the national debate items, I hope I can be a messenger to the people in the district when they have questions about curriculum, the process by which curriculum is set. And the school board doesn't set a curriculum. The state says, here's the curriculum, the school district has some liberty as it relates to books. But again, being sensitive to parents' concerns about what's being taught, but also telling them, this is what's being taught. This is why this is a good text. This is why they chose not to pull this particular text. They thought that the controversy, or controversy is maybe not the right word, if it could cause students to feel uncomfortable, it's not like that's the only book that's part of a canon that can challenge our students to learn. And I think it's a good pivot to say, have this book, make it so the majority of parents are going to be engaged and the students can learn, as opposed to having a semester's worth of protest, for lack of a better word. But specifically as it relates to some other issues, you know, education is fundamentally, for many subjects, it's about presenting truth. Best we know it, best it's been researched. And specifically in areas like history, there's no need to whitewash. My son is now in high school, and he's been presented with areas where America has failed in its promise, as great and wonderful as it is. But looking at those failures are what I hope students will look at and learn from, so when they take over the mantle, they'll be best served to make the decisions that say, yeah, we don't want to do that again. And it's never made my children feel like their grandparents were bad people, or they are inherently bad people. And actually it's quite the opposite. They view the world where when they sit down at a table, they expect to see a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds. Equally important, we have to remind students there can be a lot of different views. And if you don't agree with somebody's view, booing them off the stage or yelling at them, you're not only being impolite and rude to them, you're doing a disservice to the functioning democracy we have, which is you have to respect that point of view. Doesn't mean you have to agree with it, doesn't mean you have to vote on it. But I think in general, we'd be better off by doing a lot less yelling at each other and a little bit more understanding points of view, and maybe also, heaven forbid, say, I'm gonna have to compromise. I'm not gonna get everything I want, but I'm segueing into probably more national politics. As it relates to the board, it's a consensus body, but again, my background is not firmly rooted in education. It's much more business executive, and I'm not saying a public school district is a business, but you still have some of the same issues of, you know, here's the resource we have. How do we optimize this curve? And you have to make fundamental decisions. And ideally, you'd like to have unlimited resource, but we don't. And when those tough choices come around, I think a combination of long-term planning and understanding what's best, being creative in terms of where we can share resources across the district, and obviously having active liaison with the state in terms of funding sources, those are all important. I'm probably not going to be somebody who's going to interrupt a consent agenda over spelling errors to keep us there for 8 hours just to prove a point, but I'd be comfortable. Sometimes a vote that's not unanimous is good, just to tell people, I think it sends a message to the public that it was vigorously debated, and it might be something that can be revisited. Back to the budget issue and optimizing, we face some challenges. We have to get talent in the classroom, and that's going to require resource. You just can't, you know, assume that it's all going to be taken care of. If you want quality teachers in the classroom, we're going to have to find a way to use resource to make teaching an attractive profession. But one of the ways you do that too is make your district a positive district with good, safe buildings and positive, engaged parents. I'm assuming most teachers, if they had a choice between making this and having indifferent parents or a dangerous school versus making maybe a little bit less but feeling like the cumulative reward of teaching is offset by that, it presents a better value proposition. I'm not trying to be too much of a number counter by saying that, but it's true. And I think as a school board member, the opportunity to go into a school and witness, you know, a teacher working and see that and give them that little applause, because sometimes those little small things they do when you can see a teacher connecting with a student, you know, it's nice for them to know somebody saw that, and it's really good. And more important, if I'm out in the community as a school board member and somebody's lamenting whatever, people always like to lament, that was too easy to say whatever. I mean, staffing would be a good example. I can say, look, we are not overstaffed relative to our peers, and here's an example of how this school district, I think, is really dynamic and really great. I'm going to pivot back to, if I have one thing that kind of popped in my head, there was a great piece about a month ago in the New York Times talking about teaching civics. And I'm not talking about civics like, here's how government's structured, here's voting. It's back to, I would love it if we could start exposing our students to, here's the dynamic of how you listen to somebody you don't agree with. Here's what you need to do. Here's how you have to challenge yourself. Because yelling and screaming so they can't be heard, that doesn't make your side right. You might have a better argument, or you might be in a majority. But by hearing that perspective, that's a good thing. That being said, I'm really proud to be with be on the same stage with these other candidates. I think we're a lot more alike in terms of our passion for public schools and our desire to have them succeed. We all going to bring unique things to the table. I guess you guys are lucky. You only have to almost vote for one, which is the one point you don't want on. But hopefully by me being first tonight, that doesn't mean I'll be the one who's last. So anybody who's interested to hear more about me or support my campaign, I have some small flyers back there, and I will now welcome any questions. I guess I can go watch the twins downstairs. Just kidding.
I have a question.
Sure.
What do you think is your strongest suit in dealing with conflict and adversarial positions?
Well, step one, people, it's going to go poorly if from the get-go you give them an impression your opinion is wrong, or you are talking down, saying, oh, I went to college here and you went to college there, therefore based upon U.S. News and World Report rankings, you know, my voice is more important. I mean, that's impolite and it's rude. And And it's also not very wise, because there's plenty of people I've met in my life who have taken a different path, and under the realm of wisdom, they're as smart as anybody I've met who's got a PhD. But I think I'm very comfortable in where I get my facts. I literally cringe when somebody says, I'm not going to listen to you because you read the New York Times and that's fake news. You know, I mean, it's kind of hard to function in a conversation like that. That being said, I'll take a very good example. An individual called me up and asked me about CRT. And I said, yeah, I know, that's a hot button acronym. It makes people really divisive. And I responded to it in two parts. I politely asked him, I said, are you familiar with the origins? Because the origin story of it has been misrepresented, I feel. And I come from a background of science. So if I'm going to do a science experiment, if I want to find out if something is affecting something, I hold everything constant, right? And so yeah, back in the 1970s, a bunch of lawyers that were probably progressive and probably but they were concerned. They wanted to see our people of color treated differently. All things being same crime, same environment, same situation, everything. And yes, they found that there was a marked difference. That, to me, is a good, well-run social science experiment. And somehow it's got perverted, so people think anytime a teacher walks into a classroom, they have to present all material through the prism of race. And that's not true. And I try, when I'm having a conversation with somebody like that, to explain to them, if you're going to operate from the premise that nothing wrong has ever happened in our country's past, then we probably aren't using each other's times effectively. But if you're willing to, you know, the number of people I've met who were amazed that in the 1930s in the city of Edina, these developments that were going up had protective covenants, saying this property cannot legally be sold to a person of color. Right here in Minnesota, you know, the Minnesota 58, Civil War, we're great, we're wonderful people, but that's, you know, that happened. Doesn't mean those developers were evil, bad people, but I think it's important for somebody who's a sophomore in high school to understand that happened here. And I think, in my opinion, as I view this country, and as I view this state, and as I view this community, and I view this school district, that is fundamentally wrong. And it's not about feeling bad or telling them what to think. It's showing them the truth. It's a fact. And if they decide that wasn't that big of a deal, I think that's regrettable, but I'm fairly certain the teacher is not going to say, no, does everybody agree with this 100%? If not, you're going to get an F. That's not the case. That help?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Great, thanks. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you for the questions. Don't be shy. This is your opportunity to ask questions directly to the candidate.
Hi, everybody. My name is, wait, whoa. I forgot something. That's okay. My name's Rowan Elsmore. I am a mother of a third grader who really likes tacos. I am a renter. I'm a public school teacher. I teach in Bloomington at Jefferson High School. And I am transgender. I am running for school board because I understand the importance of strong policies to protect marginalized peoples and to allow us to go about our lives. I transitioned publicly in the district where I still work. While that was happening, there were a lot of people who were supportive of me. There were other people who were hostile toward me. Regardless, I was able to still be an effective teacher because I had strong policies at the district level that allowed me to continue doing my job. Having been kind of personally touched by policy, I understand how important the role of the school board is and what they do. There are 3 pillars to my campaign: equity, community, and opportunity. On the equity front, the board just passed an equity policy recently. It's a good policy and I full-fledged support it. It's brand new, and there's a few places that I think it needs to already obviously be strengthened, and we need to look at it over time. We don't have specific protections for transgender and non-binary youth in the policy. Many of the districts around us already do. To be clear, we have procedures in our district presently that protect these students. Procedures can change. Procedures are not looked at by the public. They're not debated, they're not set. We need to look at actually doing this at a board level policy. Secondly, the equity policy we need to look at through the lens of all the different marginalized groups that we serve. Ask ourselves, where is this working? Where is this falling short? And where it's falling short, we need to revise the policy. Policies need to be living and breathing and grow with our community. On the community front, something I've heard when I'm knocking on doors over and over again is that the community members feel like they are disconnected from the school board. I know that the board members have really good intentions. I know that they're doing a good job of hearing from our district level administrators. The board needs to do a better job of reaching into all of the stakeholders in our community, our staff, our students, our community members and families, and letting them have a voice and feel like they are being heard as we're talking through all the different policies that are being discussed. Finally, on the opportunity front, we have a lot of really wonderful opportunities that exist in our district. For some of our students, those opportunities exist on paper and not in reality. One example of this, where when you look at the demographics of our college credit bearing courses at Two Rivers, the demographics don't line up with the demographics of the broader school. Why? Well, because there's a lot of barriers in the way of people getting into those classes. AP and college in the schools classes have a lot of requirements. Two Rivers has done a lot in recent years to help bridge this gap. And I believe that we need to look at what they're doing that's working well and build on those successes, find ways to support the school to really support all of our students and to being able to actualize that opportunity for everyone. Election day is November 7th. We've got the 2 levy questions that are on the ballot, and they're both very important. I hope that you go and vote for them. I'm in full support of them. If they pass, we're going to have new money to spend, and we're going to have a board that's overseeing that new money. If they do not pass, we're going to have big cuts coming, and you're going to have a board overseeing those cuts. Regardless of the situation, we make better decisions when we have diverse bodies that come from different places looking at this. I'm a renter. That's something that's different than the other board members. I'm transgender. Members of the queer community are not represented on the board presently. If you want a lot of diverse perspectives, making good decisions so that we can really see where our blind spots are, you need to diversify your board. I'm somebody that can help do that. If the Star Tribune is to be believed, I would be the 9th transgender or non-binary person on the school board across the nation. This is not a viewpoint that's been represented on boards broadly. There's over 15,000 school boards. School board members talk broadly with lots of people. This could have impacts on a lot of different communities. It's not about massively changing what we're doing. It's about making sure that we're really protecting all of our students and making sure we've got a school district that supports everyone. And I'll look forward to taking any questions that you have.
Can you come up to the microphone, please? Because we are full of liars.
I appreciated hearing about your 3 pillars. I'm wondering what your suggestions are to connect better with communities so there is better communication.
Yeah. I think a big part of it is it's difficult. The school board is not like a sexy position that everybody wants to like engage with, right? And it tends to be one of those things that you see a lot of like reactionary sort of like, oh, this thing changed and we didn't like it, right? And from the perspective of the board, there's like, well, we've had listening sessions and all that sort of thing. It's challenging. I've been guilty of being disconnected from the school board that oversees me too. I think getting in the schools, right? Getting into communities and having direct conversations with people is something that needs to happen. I have at lots of the Garlow events. I've been broadly talking to the principals and that sort of thing. I think direct engagement with stakeholders is really important. And especially student voice. We've got a couple of students that are on the school board now, and that's a really important perspective. it's only a few, right? We need to do a better job of engaging students more broadly, especially like focus groups and that sort of thing as we're looking at different policies.
I'm going to ask this of each candidate. What do you think is your strongest suit in bringing cohesiveness and the ability to compromise to the school board?
Thank you so much for that question. I am someone who understands what it's like to not be seen and not be heard. And I think that the first step to finding compromise is empathy. I think it's really important to be able to understand where someone's coming from, even if you disagree with them. And then to be able to kind of stand back and know what your values are and where you're willing to actually go and where you're not. And I think from there, you can really make a lot of headway. And a lot of people that on the surface disagree with each other on a lot of things, there's still common ground that can be found.
Thank you.
Any others?
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Good evening. My name is Byron Schwab, and I want to thank the Optimist Club for hosting this event tonight. Thank you. And I want to thank those of you who are here to take the time to come and listen to us tonight. And I want to thank those that may be viewing this on Town Square. And I thank you for tuning in and taking the time to care and listen. I'm an incumbent. I've been on the school board for 12 years, and I'm looking for a fourth term. So I guess it speaks that I really enjoy what I'm doing, and I feel like what I'm doing is worthwhile, and I feel like I have the background qualifications to continue that work. During the 12 years that I've been on the school board, I've also been able to represent the 197th School Board on the East Metro Integration School Board. I was on that for 6 years, and at the present time, I'm representing District 197 on the Intermediate 917 School Board. As far as my education and my experience, I have a bachelor's degree from Gustavus Adolphus College in music education, and I taught kindergarten through 12th grade music in Cottage Grove. I've taught at all 3 levels. I have a master's in education and a specialist degree in administration. I was principal in River Falls, Wisconsin at Greenwood Elementary for 4 years. And then I was fortunate enough to get a job in my own school district in 197. And I was principal at Pilot Knob Elementary for 14 wonderful years. My professional memberships, I have a number of them because I feel like it's important to be a lifelong learner and engaged in education if that's your business and you want to continue it. I've been a member of the Minnesota Elementary Principals Association. MESPA is the acronym, for 30 years. And I've been a member of the retired principals of MESPA for 16 years, and I've been on their board of directors for those 16 years as well. I'm a member of the University of Minnesota Alumni Association. I'm a lifetime member, and I'm a member of the Gustavus Alumni Association. That's where I got my bachelor's degree. And I want to also say I'm a faithful supporter of NPR and TPD. For professional development, I think that it's important as a lifelong learner that you continue to learn, especially I feel as a school board member where the business is education. I attend monthly professional development sessions through my retired principals organization. I attend the Minnesota School Board Association and the Metropolitan School District Association of Metropolitan School Districts annual conferences, state conferences, and it helps because it gives you some understanding and keeps you current on Minnesota law in education, school finance, and trends in education. Actually, a number of the more recent topics have been regarding equity and inclusion. I've also been a member of, I've been on the Minnesota Charter Schools Relicensure Board for 10 years, which has helped me to understand teacher licensure and how we are committed to hiring the most qualified people to teach our students. I'm also a 40-year resident of West St. Paul. I've lived in the same house for 40 years with my family. My wife is a retired teacher. We have 2 daughters. Both of them graduated from what was then Sibley, and it's now Two Rivers. Both of them live in West St. Paul. And both of them are also active in education. I have a daughter who's a teacher at Garlow, and I have another daughter who has her own production company. She's done shows at Moreland, and she's also done shows at Garlow, and works in the Apple Valley School District directing their productions, and has a summer production of students that tours this last year. They did 36 different performances throughout the Twin Cities. I have a grandson at Heritage in 7th grade. I have a granddaughter at Garlow in 1st grade, and I have a another granddaughter who is, I'm proud to say, a freshman at Western Kentucky University, and was able to go there on a full scholarship in speech and music. I am also a U.S. Army veteran. I served for 2 years during the Vietnam War, and I'm a lifetime member of the American Legion. I've been a member for 50 years, and I don't know if that makes you, no, you have to, there's something more you have to do to get a lifetime membership, but I've done that. I'm a member of the Augustana Lutheran Church. I sing in their choir. I have a rehearsal tonight following this, and actually I fill in when the director's going to be gone, and so I'm directing on Sunday. If you'd like to come to the service, it'd be great. I'd like to have you there. Prior to joining Augustana Lutheran Church, I was the choir director at St. James Lutheran Church, which is also in West St. Paul, and I was there for 12 years. I wanted to touch on my priorities. My priorities are students, finance, and governance. Now, I will elaborate a little bit on each one of those briefly or quickly. Students are our clients. As a school district, those are our clients, and they are the most important people that we have to serve. Just as any business person has clients, these are our clients. It's very important to understand that we have programs in our district that we offer from birth to age 22. We have early childhood, we have our elementary schools, we have preschool, we have our 2 middle schools, and we have a high school, and then we have our branch out program, which is from 18 to 22-year-olds. They're all important students. They all need to be a part of our school district and need to feel valued and respected. I think that our students' success is of utmost importance. That involves their social and emotional being. They need to feel healthy and well and ready to learn. Achievement, again, they need to feel healthy, wealthy, welcome, and respected in order to learn. That's a proven fact. Our curriculum and instruction is so important. What we're teaching our students and how we're teaching them, so important. Tim had touched on the fact that we have state standards that do directly tell our teachers and our district what should be taught. A few other things, I'm running out of time. Under students, their safety and security is important, being prepared for the future, graduation, critical thinking, equity, and inclusion. Under finance, we have to maximize our revenue, and I feel like with my background in what I have in education, I have a good understanding of Minnesota finance. Gosh, it makes me nervous because I have to stop. Governance. As a school board member, our main responsibility is governance. And that's what we need to keep in mind. Policies are what we do, And we supervise the superintendent to make sure that he is doing the management that needs to be done within the district to make it successful. Thank you.
Questions?
If you don't have questions, I have a lot more that I can say.
Since you've been on the board for so long, I was just wondering, what areas of growth do you see for the school board?
Areas of growth for the school. Well, we have made so many growth in so many areas. I think that one of the areas that we really need to look at, and it's a challenge, is our achievement opportunity gap that we have in our district. We're partnering with the University of Minnesota in a reading program that I hope will show great success with our students. We are looking at we've adopted a new math curriculum, I believe, didn't we? Oh, we're looking at that. That's under adoption, math curriculum. It's important. That's one area that I feel that we really need to continue to look at. Equity and inclusion, making sure that all of our students feel welcome and that they're a part of our community. Our school district has about 5,000 students, and out of that, 47% now are white students, and I should say 53% are students of color. Our district is very diverse. Our diversity is an attribute, it's an asset for our whole community, because our world is diverse, and we need to make sure that our children are prepared to go into a diverse world and understand other cultures other than just your own. Go ahead. Do you have another question?
Yeah, right here.
Okay. All right.
Now, I heard through the grapevine, so I don't know how much of it is true, that an approved curriculum with some books, a parent complained and these books were pulled. And I don't know how much of that is true or what the backstory is, but it really got my dander up. And so I wanted to question you about that.
All right, I thank you for questioning. Yes, we did. We adopted a curriculum called Amaze that's in our elementary schools. And it's a series of books at each grade level that covers a multitude of topics. We did have some parents, there were a couple of parents that complained about it. And I think if anything, it helped us do even more due diligence other than accept the curriculum that we've understood was already vetted and proven, but it gave us an opportunity to look further. And we did find through professional review and legal counsel that it was recommended that there were a couple of books that were not as appropriate for that particular age. So we asked Amaze to come back with other books that we could substitute for those, and I think that it was an appropriate decision, and it was done after us doing our due diligence to find out about the books. And I respect the parents that had questions about it, and I think that it will only make it a stronger program in our schools.
Any other questions?
If there are no other questions, I would say if I'm reelected, I will be the most senior person. The next most tenured person has 3 years experience. I want to be able to be a spokesperson for our senior citizens as well. I feel like I have the background, the experience, the knowledge, the enthusiasm, and the passion to continue to serve our community. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for being here. Thank you for hosting us tonight, and thanks to those of you who are watching from home. I'm Morgan Steele, pronouns are she, her. I live in West St. Paul. I have 2 kids at Somerset. One's in 3rd grade, One is in kindergarten. Our kindergartner went to the Early Learning Center last year, and if I could tell you about how great the staff at the Early Learning Center is without crying, I would, but I can't. They sincerely have made a huge impact on our family and have set our kindergartner up for success. I'm from Brooklyn Center, graduated from Champlain Park High School, and I am a product of public schools. After I got my degree in secondary ed and French, I moved to Houston, Texas, where I taught French from 5th grade to 12th grade for 7 years in a Title I district. My husband and I moved back to Minnesota in 2014 so that we could start a family specifically, so we would be close to my family, and so that our kids would go to school in Minnesota public schools, because we know the quality of the public school system that we have here. It was a very intentional choice that we made as a family. I am currently the French teacher at Richfield High School, where I intend to retire someday as a classroom teacher. I've been a classroom teacher for 17 years, grades 5th grade through grades 5 through 12. I believe in strong public schools. I believe that every student deserves to feel safe, seen, and valued in their education setting. And I believe there are a lot of ways that we can do that. As a board member, I would ensure that that happens by listening to stakeholders, to families, students, all of our teachers and staff, and to the community. I will keep our students at the center of my choices, and I can assure you that I can get behind any decision as long as it is good for students. My focus areas are, first, having clear and transparent communication with stakeholders. This is something that when I ran in 2021, I also focused on. I think that this is an area of growth for our district. My most recent example of this is the schedule change at the middle schools. I think that there are a lot of families who don't know that the schedule changes are happening or how that will impact their families. And I do commend the board and district administration for reaching out to current middle school families, but current elementary families who will be impacted by these choices were not engaged in the listening sessions. I also think that it's important that we expand and build on the SEL work that is happening in our schools. Our kids can't learn if they don't feel safe, and that is brain science in fact. We need to keep doing the social emotional work that we are doing so that our students can achieve to their highest potential. And that includes making sure that we have access to resources like counselors and social workers, and at the secondary levels, drug counselors, because that's something that we need. And if you are in schools now, post-pandemic learning, we need it now more than ever. I believe that we need to continue the equity journey that our district is on. I commend District 197 for the work that they're doing, but as Rowan said, we need to go further, and we need to go further faster. The district where I work has an equity policy that protects our transgender and non-binary students, and it's written into policy, and that is something that I would look forward to doing. I also think in regard to our AmazeWorks policy, our AmazeWorks curriculum, I understand that we pulled back, but I wonder that in pulling back, which students and families are not represented because we made that choice. And when that choice was made, whose voices were at the table when that choice was made and whose voices were left out. I also think that it's important that we continue to advocate for fully funding education at the state legislature. As the superintendent shared with us earlier, 23% of our funding comes from our property taxes, and as a school board member, I would hope to be able to advocate for that to be changed. We can advocate for full funding of education from the state, and that is a way to make sure that we are getting equitable resources to our schools, and that it is not dependent on where we live. So I look forward to answering your questions, and I thank you for listening to me this evening.
If you have a question, please step up to the wireless microphone, please.
I know in St. Paul's district, they talk about having like a metal detector for people to enter the school, and I just wondered if that's ever thought about at District I-197?
I honestly don't know what the conversations in 197 have been around that. I do know that a knee-jerk reaction from people is that they feel unsafe when they walk into a place with metal detectors. The 7 years where I taught in Houston were in schools where metal detectors were. And I can tell you, I felt very safe working there every day. So I don't know what those conversations are. I wouldn't be opposed to hearing them. I think that our student safety is our #1 priority. And we have to do whatever we can to make sure that our students feel safe so that they can learn.
So I appreciate what you said about looking at policies and things regarding equity and moving forward faster. I'm wondering how, we've talked about like sort of the civil discourse that's happening around things like equity and conversations about like CRT and social emotional learning and things like that, because there's a lot of misinformation. So I'm wondering, how are you thinking the board can engage the community to really understand what those things mean and how they're beneficial to our students, and how some of it is just misinformation and not actually happening in the schools?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think when I ran in 2021, I had to actually look up what CRT was because it was a question that I got asked so frequently, and I am a high school teacher. So I think similar to what the superintendent did tonight, and as a board, asking or expecting that the superintendent and district administration is engaging the community, engaging families in conversations like he did today with the levies, and making sure that that's important. So it's a priority to the board, so then it becomes a priority to district administration, and then helping engage in those conversations.
The superintendent said that currently there are some youth or student members that are involved in school board. Would you like to see that expanded, and if so, why?
Yeah, there are 2 students on the board right now. I don't know what the policy is around that, if it's able to be more than that. I do think that an idea that I have, and as I was sitting at a board meeting a couple of weeks ago, it's really hard to sit and just listen and not be able to ask questions when you're sitting there. But we were talking about how to engage the community and engage students more, and I thought, how cool would it be to maybe move the board meetings from school to school so that you could hear from more students, or to have an event where you go to each school and listen to students. So even if you can't expand that, you can still open yourself up to hear from more students. I think being visible and being in the hallways or being at events is very important.
Any other final questions? Thank you.
I'm Randy, and I am proud and slightly shocked to say that I am running for school board. Allow me to elaborate. I've had the opportunity to witness the profound effect that showing up for people can have on a community. That support and uplifting each other is essential for a community to thrive. This is work that I feel inspired to do and have done. Now, running for school board is not something that I had ever considered for myself. It was about the end of July when someone for whom I have the utmost respect and admiration for the work that he does in this community, he came to me with this idea of running for school board. And at the end of our conversation, I thought not only that I could run for school board, but that I should run and serve my community in this way. See, I have always believed that one should use one's gifts, talents, resources, and energies to serve other people, to make the world a better place. So I took a step back and I looked at my work and my experience and my involvement in the community. As a parent, I have 3 students in the district. We've been involved from early childhood all the way through high school. We have had great success in this district, and we've also had challenges. I can relate to a parent perhaps having a comprehensive journey through our district. As a teacher, I have earned my master's in education from the University of Wisconsin, and I taught for St. Paul Public Schools as well as charter schools and private schools. I've also worked as a paraprofessional in various districts in in general education and special education, including in our own district, as well as having been a substitute teacher in area districts, including in our own district. I've also taught community ed classes, and I even homeschooled for a time. As a volunteer, I've worked in many different aspects of our community, usually in some artistic capacity, as I seem to see myself as a creative being. So with that experience as a parent, as a teacher, as a helper, as a creative, I looked at where I was in my life and where my family was and the needs of our community. And I realized that I could continue this work of uplifting and supporting our community at a local level by serving on the school board. So I said yes. I've been quite inspired lately by people in governing policy, doing work that uplifts and supports our community. It's happening at the city level, at the county level, the state level, and the federal level. We have people working and supporting our communities. Let me give you a recent example. Last week I attended the groundbreaking ceremony for the Dakota County and Guild Services Crisis and Recovery Center, being built in my neighborhood, a couple of blocks down from my house. This is an inpatient facility that will help people in mental health and substance abuse crises. It's not an easy thing to get built in a community, but it is life-changing. About a year ago, I learned of loud opposition and concern to this project from a few local residents and church leaders in our neighborhood. And it broadly labeled our neighborhood as absolutely not in support of this type of project. There was even state media coverage of their opposition. I knew this was not who we were as a community, so along with my strong, caring, smart neighbors, Jessica and Michelle, we got organized. I won't go into all the details of the things that we did, but the people showed up in droves to share their stories and voice their support of the Crisis and Recovery Center. And I also got us state media coverage too. In addition to the community showing up and how important that was, however, there was another reason for the success of this project. Because of the work of the partnership of our civic leaders at the city, county, local, state, and federal level. That collaboration, that partnership, that enabled a facility like this to celebrate its groundbreaking last week. We have people in these government positions right now, people who believe in uplifting and supporting each other with policies and programs that lead to great things in our communities. This kind of partnership and collaboration is essential for public school success as well. And now is the time. We even have educators and former educators in these positions who are working to support public education through interconnected issues and with policies directly impacting schools. We need a school board who believes in the potential of public education as the great equalizer and willing to work and collaborate with civic leaders to propel all that our school district already does and can do upward. Working as a community organizer in support of the Crisis and Recovery Center, that's just one example, but I have seen what's possible. I'll also say one more thing about that experience. Those folks who did have concerns, who did have opposition to this facility, they were not ignored. The Dakota County team pledged to open their doors with a series of ongoing meetings throughout the past year in response to their opposition, welcoming anyone to come and discuss their concerns, to ask questions, to meet with people involved in this project. And they were not legally required to hold these meetings. They already had the go-ahead and the approval for this project, but they did so anyway. And people came, and discussions were had, and voices were heard, and some people even changed their opposition into support. As somebody who is looking to serve this community at a local level on the school board, that kind of leadership is what I would aspire to do through my work. So here I am, running for school board. Somebody came to me and said, I believe in you. And that moment was transformative. And if I were given the opportunity to serve you on the school board, know that all of the work that I would do would be with the intent to say to this community, I believe in you. Because schools are foundational to the success of our community to thrive. All the policies, the initiatives, the visions set forth by the school board, those are ways to say to our community, I believe in you, I support you, and that's work that I would be honored to do, and that's why I am running for school board. So thank you for listening, thank you to the Optimist Club for hosting this, thank you for people who are watching, those are all important things, and I'm grateful and happy to be here, and thank you. Thank you.
All right, questions? Here's your opportunity.
If given the opportunity, what's one thing that you wish that you could single-handedly change? You know that you need cooperation, of course, but if there's one thing that you would like to champion in your term, should you be elected?
Well, there's a reason I'm running for a school board position and not any other kind of elected official. I want to be on this team, so something that I would spearhead myself, that's, I don't know how I would answer that. So looking at this opportunity as being part of a team, I can look directly at, for example, the strategic framework set forth by our school board, the things that this district and the school board, the administrators, the teachers, those things that they are doing, I want to help with continuity of that and continue that work because there's so much potential. Those goals that they mention, those, all of those kinds of goals, I believe each and every one of those goals are achievable and attainable. And any way that I can support through what we do as a school board, I think that is essential to the success and the thriving of our district and our students.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question coming here?
I have lots of questions. You talked a lot about community engagement, and I think that's really important. And one of the things that kind of I've noticed over the years with watching the board meetings and stuff is it's difficult for some of our community members to engage due to lack of access. We have a lot of people in the district who English is not their first language, or transportation is an issue, or things like that. So how can you make the school board and what they do more accessible to the whole community?
That's a great question, and yeah, I'm really glad you asked that. So many thoughts. So last year I was a paraprofessional at the Early Learning Center, and Miss Lori, who runs the school, or that whole program, she has been transformational in getting engagement in their parent advisory committee, so their group that involves parents, and they have made several changes. And at the school board meeting this week, she talked about that, and you can watch that because she'll say it a lot more eloquently than I can. But she talked about the changes that were deliberately made to their program in order to increase their engagement and their participation from all different kinds of parents. So the first thing they did was simply changing the name of the group to seem more accessible and less intimidating. So it's just like a parent listening session. And they planned that out through the whole year, knowing what would happen every month. Another thing that she talked about that they did was they had it divided into two parts, a part where something was presented and then a feedback part. So there was an expectation of what was to be discussed at that meeting. Another thing she talked about was having interpreters at every meeting. Another thing she talked about was a hybrid option, having virtual meetings. This is something I often worked in the evenings and couldn't attend PTA meetings or various other committee meetings. So this is something that has also increased. She talked about several other things and has noticed an increase not only in attendance, but in diversity of attendance. Historically, it was always the moms and their little kids. And now it's moms and dads and caretakers and all kinds of people. So looking at real life examples that are happening in our district right now and spreading that throughout other schools is a great starting point. I think I'll stop talking. Anyway, thank you. Thanks, Ashley.
More questions? All right, thank you. Well, just a couple of quick announcements, but I'd like to have you give a nice round of applause to all of our candidates. That's Tim Awney, Rowan Elsmore, Byron Schwab, Morgan Steele, and Randy Welch. All right, as I mentioned, a couple of quick announcements. We would love to have you come back and join us at one of our Optimist meetings. We meet right here in this room the first and third Wednesdays of the month. We do take off the month of July, but we're here from 5 until 6:30. We'd love to have you come in and kind of give us your opinion as to what things in the community need to be done, because that's really what we're about. We've been in this community since 1971, and our goal is to help bring out the best in youth, our communities, and ourselves. So we're always looking for new ideas, new projects that to take on that we can benefit the area in. So please join us. That's once again the first and third Wednesdays of the month from 5 until 6:30. And I would like to recognize that we've got some Optimist members here in the audience tonight, and I'm just going to read their names, and then please give them a nice round of applause. Deborah Conan Varner, Kelly Casey Spavin, Cole Taylor Spavin, Ken Kane, and the lady that put this together tonight, Cheryl Bergstrom, and my name is Chuck Spavin. So with that, we have lots of food left. I mean, lots of food. All right. So please go over there and help yourself. And I think the candidates are going to stick around. If you'd like to talk to them in person, please do that. But with that, I will say good night and thank you all for being here at this forum. Good night.